Dusty Cole with the Business Builders Podcast. Welcome to episode 6, where we welcome Chris Kerby with Kerby Custom. Chris, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, really thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming and visiting with us. So maybe just start telling them about, I know you have multiple companies. Maybe just kind of talk about what you do and what services you provide.
Okay. Well, I actually retired last year from the Navy, and I grew up in the construction world. My dad was a renovator his whole life. And I joined the Navy because I didn't want to go into construction.
Okay.
But while I was in the military, me and my wife, we lived in D.C., and the cost of living was just outrageous. Mm-hmm. And I was watching the Flip This and That shows, that would come on A&E and different channels at that time. And I said, Roma, for the cost that we paid for this townhouse, we can do that back at home 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. And finally, in 2011, she said, "Okay, let's try it." Yep. And so we were buying and selling, and my father and my brother-in-law would do the work. And that's kind of how we got into the construction side. We were flipping houses.
Yep.
And then in 2017, my wife came home. She teaches at Robertsdale, and in the meantime, I didn't want my dad and my brother-in-law to go back to work. Mm-hmm. So we had to do more than just flip houses for ourselves. So we started Kerby Custom Renovations. And when we first started out, we were just interested. We wanted to get in as many houses as possible. Mm-hmm. And so if it was hanging a fan, if it was, installing a window, whatever we needed to do, call and we'll come and do it. And that's kind of how we started out, filling the gaps between houses closing and stuff like that.
Handyman lists, punch lists, and
that's
things
right.
like that. Yep.
And then, we really honed in on the kitchen and bath side. Mm-hmm. We were really good at tile work. My brother-in-law was a flooring guy, so he knew all of that stuff. And we started doing kitchen and bath. But I figured out quickly that as a contractor, to be legitimate and to do anything over $10,000 in the state of Alabama, you need to have a home builder's license. And I was like, I just don't want to do all that. I was still in the Navy.
Right.
And so I was doing this from afar. But in 2018, I got my home builder's license, and we started doing bigger projects. Started out small, doing kitchen and bath, doing larger kitchen and bath, higher dollar value contracts. And then in 2020, we actually did our first new construction for a friend that was in a business group.
Right.
And that's when we said, well, if we're going to do that, we need to have a separate company for doing new construction.
Yep.
And so we did that. Kerby Homes was born. And then 2023, Kerby Interior Design was born. Okay. And that just helps with the vision piece. Right. We're construction people. We know how to make it look like the pictures that the clients send us,
right?
But putting the picture together, we weren't so good at.
Right.
And so we now have 5 interior designers. We have about 30 total on our team between the 3 companies. And we just completed our 13th new construction project. And I think we're about just clips the 300 mark on our total projects in Baldwin County and Mobile. We do a little bit in Mobile.
Right.
And then we're just digging in on the interior design side now.
Very good. Well, so you got in kind of like I did through real estate investing.
Yes.
And so what was that like early on? Like what was your first property?
Actually, the first property I bought, I still have. It was a double wide in Loxley, and I bought that for $41,000 cash. And the reason I got it was 2,200 square foot trailer, double wide, and then it had an accompanying property that had a garage that was had an upstairs apartment. So I was like, 41 grand. And I think I got this off of like HUD Home Store or something back then.
It's all foreclosures.
Yeah. Yep. Oh well, and you can't even touch that price point anymore. But and so it wasn't terrible. My dad and my brother-in-law did all the work. We put I think $11,000 into it, and then rented it out up until now. My brother and my brother-in-law and my sister live there today.
Right.
We still have that property. It's been almost 12 years now.
Right. So that's how you got in?
That's how I got in, yes. We tried it out. It worked. We were able to rent it out.
Yep.
And then, believe it or not, we turned the garage with the apartment upstairs into a full home, and my mother actually stays in that.
Okay,
It's
cool.
just her in there.
So one thing I didn't know about you is that I guess is that you were in the Navy. I mean, you didn't seem like you were detached from your business.
Yeah.
So were you full-time military? I mean,
Yeah, so I
like
did
reserves?
the first 16 years I did active duty. So I joined out of high school, 2002, 3 months out of high school. I was shipped off and I did the first 16 years active duty. And then I got out, or I transitioned to the reserves in 2017. So a lot of people don't know this either. I'm also 70% disabled.
Okay.
And so that was a big part of the move to come back home. Roma was able to get a job where I graduated high school.
Sure.
It kind of all just connected. We were already doing projects here.
Yep.
And I was unsure if I was going to be able to stay on active duty. So it was a blessing that I was able to just transition into the reserves for the final 4 years.
And I think that's when we ran into each other a little bit, maybe, as I started noticing. It was about 2017, 2018. Yep. So that's when you really started to really try to grow the business side.
Well, yeah, because from afar, it was hard to manage. We didn't market. We just did stuff for people that we knew. And then did the flipping. So
and you had a real estate license.
Right.
Yeah, still do.
So we did that. So we don't have it anymore because just with running the companies and growth, look, I'll be honest with you. There's about 20% of real estate agents, in my opinion, that really are good at what they do and can sell and buy and take care of their clients the right way. Okay. I was the other 80%. I wanted to capture, we had been giving our broker a lot of money over the years. And I was like, well, if I'm coming home and I know some stuff about real estate, I'll take the exam, get my license so we can capture that commission we've been giving up. Right. She'll still be the broker, so she'll still get a piece. Right. So me and my wife actually both got
representing
our real estate.
yourselves.
Yes. Yeah. And so we did that a couple times, and we figured out quick with her teaching. It was fine in the summer, but when she went back to teaching and the company started growing, I said, I do not want to be a real estate agent.
Right. I mean, I think
not at all.
That's wise. I mean, that's actually how I got in, was representing ourselves on investment properties and got exposed to the sales side and then went all in.
Gotcha.
So I think that is important. Like, it's hard to serve the client in any business if your attention is divided.
That's right. Absolutely.
So early on, let's just fast forward 2017, 2018, when you're really focusing on like the retail, right? Not your own properties, like you were trying to serve clients. What was the biggest challenge or hurdle, maybe in getting business or growing business?
Actually, it was creating awareness. So, and I think in any business, the first thing and the first mistake I made was just not telling everybody who I knew what I was doing. Right. So to generate leads, you've got to create awareness. If people know what you do, they may call you. Yeah. And I'm from here, right? And so I'd been gone for so many years, so I lost contact with some people, but still knew my dad and my family stayed here. So we still knew quite a lot of people. So as we started doing projects and people started calling, hey, Chris, I saw you're doing this and remember me from high school. It was like that. Yeah. And that's how we started to build the base. But also, the first year we were in business, I put $26,000 into Home Advisor. So Home Advisor is like Handy Leads and all that, right? Where it's a lead gen service. And man, I tell you, you probably hit 1 in 5 that were good. Right. What they did was they would generate, hey, kitchen remodel in Mobile. Well, that would go out to 5 people.
You have to compete.
Yes, and that's right. And if you didn't call quick enough, or it was just junk, people were like, I didn't even mean for you to do that. Right. It did work though. The few that we did get paid dividends.
And then you get referrals from those people. And,
absolutely.
So there's a lot of that in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that was the biggest thing for us, was just creating awareness. And I was willing to put out the money that it took, and doing a good job was very important to us because we knew the people we were working for most of the time.
Yeah, something that does put the pressure on a little bit.
That's right. It does.
Yeah. So that early on, but what was the biggest challenge to serve, the client? So you're talking about generating leads. So now you've got the customer. Yeah. Is it labor? Was it?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So I would say like I said before, on the KCR side, we run 3 crews, and I have 15 people that work for that company. But in the 6 years that we've really been a company, we went from 3 to now 30 between the 3 companies. But I've hired and fired probably 70 people.
Right.
I know it sounds crazy,
sounds low, actually.
but yeah, no, it's like 1 out of every 10 that stick, and over time, 1 to 10, 1 to 10. Now you got 2, 1 to 10. Now you got 3. So the team starts to just grow from that.
So what are you doing to want to retain those good ones, and what are you doing to find those good ones?
Yeah. So the separators, right? So I talk about this on my podcast and different courses I teach. The separators for us was this. I come from a background where a mix of cultures came together. Young, average age in the military is 22. And I could take those kids overseas. Kids meaning 18, right? I could have a group of 18-year-olds, take them overseas to the Middle East where the resources were lacking, and complete a mission-critical flight and limp the plane back home. And I said, there's just no way it shouldn't be that easy to find people, create that team, get them to buy in. And so that's kind of how we built our company. But what I found out very quick was it's not the military. I had to throttle way back.
In what way?
Well,
what you expected?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very quickly I learned, and especially in the construction industry, you're not getting the same caliber of people all the time.
All the time.
You do have great people that walk in the door off the street, and sometimes they look rough, but you give them a shot, you nurture that relationship, and they grow or they don't, right? And that's kind of, in the military, they don't really have a choice. They've got to perform. And so it was a different mindset. And for me, I was a little more rigid coming out as well. I was structured.
So how have you changed over time to better accommodate your employees?
Well, I think realistically, we had to hire for culture. And so we changed the mindset of, I need a strong skill set that can get the job done and perform and willing to work long hours. Well, we had to revisit our quality of life, what I call quality of life initiatives, right? So our company is 7 to 3:30. We don't work weekends, and we build our projects around that schedule. Well, continuously people are like, first, in construction, you can't have a bunch of employees or you won't make money. It's true. It's hard.
Sub it out.
They use subs. You have a contractor, they use subs, they do that type of stuff. But for me, I wanted a team. I already had family that was working with us, and I wanted to guide and mentor and mold people, because that's what I did most of the time while I was in the military. Right. So we built it with that team concept. Our apprenticeship program is military style. We have a pay chart. They get pay raises every 1,000 hours. We have health and dental benefits. Yep. We have a 401k. So people can walk in the door for us at 18 and have a career. Yeah. They can go from an apprentice 1 to a journeyman into assistant project manager.
You lay that vision out for them.
That's right. When they walk in, we share the chart and we show them their career path. So they visibly can see from apprentice 1 to senior project manager.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good job on that.
It's tough to do, but it's super important, especially now. It's tough to find people who want to just always grind it out all day, every day.
Right.
That's an old school mentality, and we had to change that.
So what other lessons from your military background have you brought to your company?
Well, I think too was the fact that diversity is hugely important. And
diversity in what way?
Diversity as far as culture, right? I saw people literally from all over the world come together for a single common mission. So when I hire, I don't really care male, female, black, white. None of that matters. Right. I hire, again, for culture. Do you have the right attitude? Do you have the right character? Those are things that you can't teach. Right. That I'll hire somebody with the positive mindset and the right attitude that I can train to a skill. But the other way around is harder. Right. They may have skill, but they lack integrity. In construction, as a contractor, going in people's homes, That's a no-go for me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to I don't want to talk derogatory towards construction employees.
No.
Yeah.
But you know what though?
Yeah.
I'll say this, and you can ask any question
Okay.
you want. The narrative is contractor is a dirty word, and we're trying to change that narrative because it's not a professional career.
Right.
It's a second option to most people who have failed to find a first career.
Okay.
And so it is painted as negative, but a part of what I do on the home building and remodeling show is try to change that narrative.
Right.
We want it to be your first choice. That's why we are creating these paths that these kids don't even know about. When I go to the technology center and talk to the construction kids, some of them don't want to go to college, but they don't know that you can come straight out of high school and go be an apprentice for a company like ours. There's just not a lot of people out there doing it.
What are you doing what does that look like?
So we're partnered with Coastal. They have a building construction program.
Okay.
And they really just started this program, and we're the only contractors as far as remodelers and builders that are part of it. There
Coastal
are a couple
Kitchen and Bath?
No, Coastal Alabama.
Oh,
the college. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So they have a building construction program.
Cut that out.
Yeah. But they have a building construction program.
Okay.
And we've partnered with them. So what it is it's a combination. They go through their building construction course, and then we go observe, talk to the instructor, and we hire 2 people directly out of that building construction course.
Like a recruiting source.
It is. It was kind of cool. Now, on the other hand, you can just walk in off the street, and we'll hire you in the same apprenticeship track. And what it is we do training, and so they log certain hours, and they can become a master remodeler, which again sets us apart. There is no master remodeler until we just really created that.
When you're in that apprenticeship program, is it like less pay? Is it like when I hear apprenticeship, I almost think, what's the other word? Intern.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
And so there is a difference. Okay. You're paid in an apprenticeship program. So all of our people start out at $17 an hour, no matter what.
Okay.
And then they get every 1,000 hours, especially as an early apprentice, because 17 still isn't a lot. It's more than most, but they get $1 every 1,000 hours, which is equivalent to about 6 months.
Right.
And that's incentive to move them up a little quicker, right? So every 6 months, every 1,000 hours for 4,000 hours is the official apprenticeship. They're learning. They're out in the field working. My crew leaders are documenting their hours, what they're clocking in under is all done through an app. Like, so if they clock into, if they're working at your house, they're going to clock in under, dusty coal. Their service item is going to be tile, and they're going to log 8 hours of tile for that day.
So it's a software you guys have.
Yep. And so they track. They need so many hours of tile. They need so many hours of paint. They need so many, you know what I mean? Just like that.
It's a skill building.
It is a skill builder. And once they're done with the apprenticeship, now through Coastal, they can stay or they move on. They've learned a skill, they can move on. Through us, they just stay and they continue to. Now you become a journeyman, and then from there you become a master craftsman.
Gotcha. And what levels can you develop through that system and become a leader?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have what's called we have the master craftsman track, and then we have the apprentice to management track. And they are separate because you have people who they don't want to manage. They love what they do. And I love those people because they love their craft and they really are craftsmen and women out in the field who are really good at painting, really good at tile. So they can go that track. But if they want to, so the way it works for us is you go from apprentice and then you can apply to become an assistant crew leader. Right. So our crews are 2 or 3 man and women crews. And you can become an assistant crew leader. And then you're learning how to lead a crew. And then you become a crew leader. And then from there, you can go assistant project manager, senior project manager.
I see.
From there,
many levels.
There's many levels. You have to create that value.
I like that you have those 2 different directions. I used to work in the restaurant business where it's also very difficult to hire and retain. And the mistake I would see we would make almost out of necessity is you would take someone who was like a really good server
Sure.
the best server and try to make them a manager. When really they just really wanted to be a really good server, and then you put them at a manager and they get frustrated and they would leave. Have you seen
Same
that?
thing.
Yeah.
It's the same concept in construction, and I've really learned that the hard way.
Yep.
You can't turn all of your crew leaders into management either, because then you're taking all your skill out of the field.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a delicate balance. And then you figure out sometimes, hey, since you've been a good crew leader, I'm going to make you a manager. Well, they're not going to really speak up and say, well, I really don't want that.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, just like you said, you made them a manager and they can't get organized. They don't really want that role and title. They were good and they were happy out in the field, and you just assumed, well, they'll make a great manager.
It's because it's an elevation for them, and they maybe make more money. When maybe we should just have the conversation. Are you happy? With just kind of communicate a little more.
Yeah.
So I've seen that happen a lot. So good stuff. I didn't know any of that existed in your company. So I really love your apprenticeship program. I haven't heard anybody else doing that. Do you have any advice for just young people that might be interested in that?
Yeah. So I would say, don't hesitate. So what I noticed, like I told you before, when I went to the trade school and met those kids, that they weren't aware that there were companies like us that would hire apprentices. So don't be scared to make those calls. You can even Google search construction companies and reach out to them. I think there's a lack of awareness that there are companies that actually do in contracting that hire people and grow people, where a lot of times they think it's just an individual contractor with a helper. So if they've got two people, they're good. They don't need any. No. Reach out.
They're developing people.
Yes.
Some of them.
Yes, some of them. Very, very much so. Absolutely.
What about like today? What challenges are you having? Or let me back up. After Hurricane Sally, did your business explode?
So here's the thing.
What happened after Sally?
So after Sally, obviously Sally, I think for most contractors that are local, it actually hurt them because what happened was, yes, you had an influx of out-of-town people that moved here.
Yep.
We did not change what we did. So what we got tons and tons of calls. Well, we're not an emergency service company. And so we made the decision that there were close friends and family that needed help, that we could help and that we would help. Other than that, we would refer to companies that we knew locally, Paul Davis Emergency Services, people like that who actually worked emergency situations.
Gotcha.
We're a company that does custom work that takes time, planning.
Right.
And I knew the minute that we kind of just started taking everything on, we were going to fail. So we didn't change our model.
Right. That took discipline.
Yeah, it did.
Because everybody saw dollar signs, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And some people came in and did bad work and took people's money. And
I remember.
It was tough.
And I felt like our job at that time was to help people find the right people. Like we went where real estate stopped, almost like COVID for a second, where really we were just trying to help people connect with the right person.
Yeah.
We would get the call, such and such just knocked on my door and tried to go do the tree work, and they charged me X. I was like, no.
Yes, it was very
there was
tough.
a lot of that going on. So that's interesting. So you stay true to your core values and your principles.
We had to. It was tough not to, but we knew, like, our company, once we carved out a niche and in construction, anything I could suggest would be find your niche, stick to that niche. When you figure out what you're passionate about and what you're good at, you don't need to be an all services company. You can't. It's harder to build processes and things like that if you're trying to do everything.
Right. So describe your niche.
Kitchen and bath, and home additions as well. Okay. So we do a lot of kitchen and bath, interior remodeling, kitchen and bath.
So if I want to do flooring and paint, I mean.
Now we would do the flooring, but we only have one in-house painter. So if it's smaller paint, we do it. If it's a whole house, I'm going to refer you to a paint company.
Okay, I didn't know that. So, but if I want my kitchen remodeled, that's your wheelhouse.
Kitchen, from beginning to end, we got it.
Cabinets,
everything. Yep,
interesting.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about home building.
Yeah.
Are you pretty excited about that, huh?
Yeah. So we started our first home build. Which again was a friend of mine. she was in a business group with us and just said, Chris, I'd like for you to take a look at building our house. I said, I don't have an interest in that. I said, we're good at remodeling and we've carved our path. And she's like, but you're doing additions. Some of the additions were over 1,000 square foot. We were adding kitchen, bathrooms, 2 houses. Same concept.
Yeah.
Just a little
It's
bit
like, come
bigger.
on, Chris.
And I had the home builder's license, and I was like, let's look at the plans. We take a look. I meet them for lunch, open up the plans. 6,600 square foot under roof.
Right.
You want this to be my first build. And, we talked it through, and just the faith in me that she had made me want to take on the project. And we did it and completed it. And I just couldn't believe how nice it turned out and that we actually pulled it off, and we loved it. I mean, we just loved it. And from there, so we started saying, hey, we're building houses now. And that's kind of how we grew. And we've done, we just completed our 13th.
So how are you managing the volume of that? Like, is it the same thing? You only take on a certain amount?
We do. So I would say, so right now, believe it or not, my estimator, Pete, is he's got 70 houses in the queue that he is estimating, which is just crazy to think with the market. I thought we were going to just hit a huge slowdown on that side and pivot towards remodeling. We did not. And so, but we're about 30% on average is what we win. So it's not like out of 70, we're going to build 35 even.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
It's just some people kicking tires. Some it's not, the budget isn't there.
It's not the right time.
Just, there's so many different dynamics that go into picking a builder.
Right.
But even 30%, that's good for us. That's a lot of houses. So, and each one is different. We've got 700 square foot to 7,000 square foot that we do. And it's all over the county right now.
So on the back end, when I hear you say have 70 leads, you know, so 70 people, 70 customers, future clients, what do you do there to make sure all of them get followed up with properly?
Yes. So here is the thing. I am a process, people, place, and a checklist person.
Okay.
So we have
Military,
checklists
right?
after, we have checklist after checklist after checklist.
Okay.
And so all of our team members back each other up too. So you can go on vacation and know that people are going to fill in the blanks. Now it's hard sometimes with the hiring and firing and just kind of getting the right team in the right seat and the right fit.
Right.
We miss the mark sometimes.
Of course, yeah.
Absolutely. But we try to limit our mistakes or do our best to learn from them. And we still make them. We are not perfect. And there are clients in our industry that you're just not going to please, whether it's our vision and their vision didn't align ultimately.
Right.
But I will say this, we do everything we can to take care of them.
Yep.
But we still miss the mark, and we just do our lessons learned. And as long as we did it honestly and with integrity, sometimes we miss their vision.
Right.
But we just try very hard to communicate and follow up and take care of them. But again, it's tough. There's just so much work out there. It's very hard to stay, to come through with all the follow-ups. I mean,
so
it is.
This podcast is about overcoming challenges. That
Sure.
sounds like one.
Yeah.
So how are you best trying to overcome that challenge of, limiting, unhappy customers or limiting people where, the expectations are not met?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, and it's evolved over time, right? Each job that we've performed, we've done a lessons learned. We've talked through what was right, but we talked through what's wrong and how we can improve it. I mean, honestly, there is no perfect system in construction. There's never a perfect build. There is always 99.9% of my builds, there is something that is delayed or mistake happened or weather. Last summer, we had like 67 days straight of rain, and I had a build in Gulf Shores that just most of that time, I couldn't get a delivery driver even to pull up to the house.
Right.
I mean, and so it was an incredible amount of delay in that project. But as long as you let the client know what's going on,
Right.
you don't flake out,
Right.
You
Show
have
up
to
and handle the project.
be accountable, and
Yeah.
sometimes there's nothing you can do except for apologize.
Yeah.
honestly,
Just handle it straight on.
yes,
Handle
absolutely.
it straight on. So what is your team? You've talked a little bit about the different positions you have, but maybe a little bit more on like how's it laid out in regards to like hierarchy?
Our structure, okay.
Yeah.
So You have me, and I do. So we don't do any paid advertising. We do a lot of social media, but I do everything. All videos, all 3 companies. I do all of that stuff. I built our websites. I do our Google My Business. So I did all of that. It took time and effort. But I could only do that because I have a team of people who are actually running the business. So we have a project manager for KCR. He runs the 3 crews. And then there's a crew lead on each of those 3 crews who is very competent.
On site.
Yes, on site day to day. And then you have assistant crew leaders and apprentices. So that's the structure for KCR.
Okay.
And then for Kerby Homes, I have an estimator that just estimates, does pre-construction meetings.
Salary employees?
Yes, he's a salaried employee. And that's all he does all day, every day is estimate and follow up with clients.
Okay.
We have and then we have a construction manager out in the field that actually runs the homes.
So do any of the employees from the remodeling side build the houses?
So they help. So what we're good at is kitchen, bath, and interior remodeling.
You sub out the framing.
So we sub everything on the new construction is subbed all the way through the drywall. And then
normal, right?
Kitchen and baths, our crew comes in and does. Yes. Gotcha. As it aligns. Sometimes it doesn't. And we have tile subs and stuff that we actually will still sub to if KCR is booked.
I mean, it seems like you have to be able to have to refer stuff out with the amount of business that's just out there for you guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
we absolutely have some great. So like our electricians and plumbers that have been with us this whole time, they do some of the remodel work. They do the new construction, but we just have layers and layers of subs. You have to with the volume that we do.
Right. Yeah, your name kind of got out there, and it's a common kind of theme with people I've interviewed that you kind of reach to you kind of get to a point where you're like one of the 5, or like when I think home like remodelers, who do you think about? You know, if you think realtors, where your name started to be in people's minds when they were thinking, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is it's a good thing, and I think where people fail to realize is that we look good, but we struggle every day. This isn't like we're sitting there, you know. Yeah, it's
a grind, right?
It is a grind to make it work, to keep clients satisfied. If you're going to grow a business and grow employees, you're dealing with people, and you're obviously going to have issues.
So what's the next level for you? What's the next step? What's the vision?
So,
or is it stabilized?
You know, that is exactly where we're at right now.
Stabilization.
We're in a stabilization mode. We are trying to make sure that this model is sustainable and then grow, because we still do. So we did our first spec and it was successful. So we're leaning towards doing that. We have investors that, you know, work with us. And I've never built a basic home, right? People fail to realize that basic doesn't mean cheap. Basic means a builder's basic home. That means it's still a new home. It's still gold fortified. You still have quality features. It's just not custom and upgraded.
Right.
But before we did our spec last year, I couldn't tell you like how much it costs to do a basic footprint for a home. You know, we're not production builders. We're not carving out houses. Each home we do is custom. Right. So short of us doing one, I couldn't tell an investor, I couldn't tell you, hey, Dusty, it's going to cost $115 a square. I didn't know that.
Because we get that question all the time, you know, because they own the lot and they're trying to decide, do we build on it, or do we go buy a resale or a new construction? How much would it cost me to build a house here, Dusty?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. And that's the thing. So if it's a custom home, the answer is, what do you want in your house?
Let me see your plans.
I mean, honestly. And then if it's, you know, now we can take the spec home. So we did a 3-2 with a 2-car garage with, you know, standard 1,500 square foot home. And now I can tell you how much I can build a basic house for. Right. It was hardy board and batten. It was not, you know, just wasn't fancy.
9-foot ceiling.
Correct. Yeah. Just standard features throughout. And now I can tell you, well, this is how much I can do it. You know,
do you have a price per square foot for like a 1,500 basic home? So
we sold that. I'll say that we sold that, and it was in Loxley, and we sold it for.
Oh, that was your spec.
That was our spec. We sold it for $157 a square foot.
That's about retail.
Yeah, and I can tell you, it didn't cost.
Of course not.
That much.
You're in the business to make money.
And so in our builds, on our builds, we're anywhere from 10 to 20%, and the actual cost of the build, the size of the build will dictate our profit on the build.
Right, obviously
We do
smaller.
fixed fee, right? We don't do a cost plus. A lot of builders did shift to the cost plus model because when COVID hit, prices went nuts, and it
Right.
was hard. We lost a ton of money because we were doing fixed fee contracts.
Right.
But we stayed true to that model and kind of worked through it. And so that's what we do now. We do a fixed fee with allowances. And what that means is the base cost of construction, let's just keep the numbers simple, it's $100,000. Then I'm giving you $50,000 in allowances. There's about 30 line items, cabinets, countertops, tile, all of that stuff. Those are allowances.
Okay.
What that means is you put those two numbers together and it's $150,000. That's your rough cost to build, right? You take that to the bank, you get your loan. As we do the build, right, the allowances work as a series of debits and credits. So I know for a fact I'm getting the $100,000. I also know we've got to buy all these allowances. So let's just say I gave you $10,000 for cabinets. You go shop and they're $9,000. I actually give you $1,000 back. So the allowances even out. If they're over, if they're I gave you 10,000 and it's 11, you pay. We do a change order and you pay the $1,000.
So what was like the biggest challenge going from like one employer, you and your wife, to like three?
So when we started this, as I said, I had my brother-in-law and my dad. So it was always us.
Okay.
And to fill the gaps, they were doing jobs off of Home Advisor, little stuff. But when we started getting, hey, can you do a larger project? We're like, we're kind of booked up. Well, we want to take the project. We want to commit to these people. How do we do that? Well, we need to hire. Okay. So in the beginning stages, it was, who do you know? Because we're local, right? Oh, I know Tommy from XYZ. I think he would make a good fit for the company. Right. So you're like, sure, sounds good to me,
send Tommy
right?
Over.
Yeah, send Tommy over. It's people you know.
Right.
Well, that's not always the best option, right?
But that's how you started.
That's right. And so we just started saying, well, let's get more people in, and we can take on larger projects. And then now we can take on 2 projects. And you just kind of elevate from there. But the struggle is, especially in contracting, I'll say it again, you don't know that you're always going to put out a quality project until the project is complete and you do a lessons learned. And so we tried to shield ourselves. If they weren't comfortable with it, sometimes you can be overzealous. You could say, look, we're doing flooring right now, so we should be able to do flooring and cabinets. Well, I'm going to tell you, you mess up an expensive set of cabinets, that's a lessons learned. You know what I mean? And so I'll be honest, but we always made it right. I think the reason we were able to grow wasn't because we were not making mistakes. It was because we were making mistakes and fixing them, even if I lost money.
Well, I think that's very important. Like especially for someone like me who makes referrals.
Sure.
Like I can't promise to you the person I'm going to refer is going to be like the cheapest, or even will do it perfectly, but that they will make it right if something goes wrong, and they will show up when they're supposed to. Those sort of things. Yeah, you did all those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So currently in your business, like today, what are some challenges you're having?
Well, so right now, what we face today is we're looking at management. So really, we have the right people. We have enough work, right? The leads are coming in. The phones are ringing. We're in a growing market. So it's how can we not just capture that work, commit to a project, but close the project out on time, on budget. That's what we're looking at now. Yeah. One of the biggest things that I've recently learned, and my wife, she's a math teacher by nature, so she helped me with this. But when we're budgeting for the year, we're forecasting having 3 crews for 52 weeks. Well, I was failing to realize that you're not going to have 3 crews for 52 weeks. Right. You're going to have vacations. So just like a hotel has vacancies, right? That's now how we plan. We don't plan for 100% capacity because it's just not going to. So we were kind of failing in that area. And so now it's just zeroing in on process, constantly improving, making our checklists better, and recruiting a little bit different, hiring the executive leadership team to help me make management decisions, and I can delegate now because I have people of quality that will take care of the business.
Interesting. When I hear you talk about your budgeting, it makes me think of our agents and how I used to. We do a business plan. And we're like, okay, how many people do you need to talk to?
Yeah.
And I would do it over 5 days a week for 52 weeks.
Gotcha.
You know, it's like 12 conversations times 5, that's 60. And the reality is it's like 42 weeks.
Yes.
4 days a week.
Yes.
And if you hit that, you know, it's just, yeah.
And that's how you have to. I just didn't realize how big of a gap we were creating by planning for a full 52.
Setting yourself up for a deficit
Yes.
in your planning.
Yep.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm impressed with how you've grown your business over the years. I mean, what would you say the top 3 things, or what advice would you give, new contractors or just new business owners?
Sure. So as a new contractor, the very first thing that you've got to do is create awareness. Don't hesitate and don't be scared to tell everybody you know what you're doing. Yep. The second thing would be finding your niche. Sometimes if you do not find your niche and figure out what you're passionate about, you're going to take a project that you don't like or that you can't successfully do, and you're going to get a bad reputation right away. So find your niche and stick to it. Don't be tempted by the larger job. Don't let the money tempt you.
Very good.
And third, I would say treat this like a professional career. Absolutely. Construction in the past has been deemed a dirty job, laborious job. But honestly, with new innovations and technology, even in what we do, it's so much easier than what it used to be. I mean, they're making flex board for bathroom walls that weighs ounces compared to heavy sheetrock. I mean, there's just so
Things like
much.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not as laborious, and it can be your primary choice for a career.
That's interesting. The 3 things you just cited, I think, can apply to any business. You said awareness. Yes. That's like marketing.
Yeah.
You know, find your niche. That could be, in my business, the high end or primary homes or investments.
Yes.
And then you said make it a career. Don't be like a hobbyist, right?
Right.
Take this serious. Think long term.
Yep.
You know, that's good stuff.
Absolutely.
So, man, Chris, thank you for giving me an hour of your time. And I know it's going to be valuable to our viewers and listeners. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, Dustin.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yep.